You're listening to Rise to Your Purpose, a personal and spiritual development podcast for female entrepreneurs with a mission.
We're your hosts, Brandie and Natalie.
Welcome to another episode of Rise to Your Purpose. On today's episode, we are interviewing Bekah George. Bekah is one of our fellow purpose partners. She's in our community, but she's also a therapist and faith-based coach, and she's just on a mission to glorify God with all that she does. She wants to love people, and most importantly, she wants to aid others in spiritual, emotional, and mental health issues. So I'm really excited for you guys to listen to this episode to learn more about coaching versus therapy, and when do you need therapy versus coaching in your different seasons of life in business. So stay tuned and enjoy. Hey friends, thank you guys so much for joining another episode of Rise to Your Purpose. I'm Brandie, one of the co-founders of Victorious Entrepreneurs Rising, and here we guide women to create a business that works for you while creating kingdom impact and operating from a place of rest. Today, I'm really excited to have a special guest on the podcast with me, Bekah George. Bekah is a therapist and faith-based coach. She's on a mission to glorify God, which we love that here at Victorious Entrepreneurs Rising. She wants to love people and aid people in spiritual, emotional, and mental health, and that is just so important, especially in today's age. So I want you guys to meet her and hear more about her beautiful business because I just love her mission. So Bekah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I would love for you just to tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got started in the coaching and therapy industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. So I am Bekah. I'm a mental health therapist. I've been a therapist for about 13 years. Then I've done everything. I've worked in jails and prison systems. I've worked in schools. I've worked for the Department of Children's Services. I've done a little bit of everything. And then I recently started really thinking about what made me tick, what makes me excited, what sets my soul on fire. I have one of my favorite quotes is I know her last name is Lyons. I don't remember what her first name is, but she says, find what sets your soul on fire and do that. And that's what I was looking at. And so for me, what sets my soul on fire is helping people to find their purpose and to utilize the tools that I have as a therapist to coach. So I started kind of transitioning my therapy clients who didn't need therapy anymore to coaching, and asking them to okay, what do we do now that you're healed in some of that stuff? How do we get you forward to where you want to be? And that's what really kept me awake at night, where I was so excited, and I was just excited to see them make progress. And so many times in therapy, people get stuck. They just get stuck with where they are. They're in therapy for 20 years sometimes, and they never go forward. And so it's how do we push you forward in that? And so I started working with as a coach. I'm faith-based. So for me, my relationship with God is really important. And I kind of try to bring that into my coaching. So my belief system is let's treat the person as a whole. So mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and not just one aspect. So I believe that I'm kind of a different kind of coach because I have a theology background as well as a psychology background, and I can take those tools as a therapist to be a coach. So that's kind of where I'm at now is kind of working with leaders. I like to work with Christian leaders, whether it's pastors, business owners, and they don't necessarily have to be Christians. I work with, non-faith-based as well, but that's kind of what I specialize with, is to say, how do we grow you in every area of your life and make a designed life for you? So if you look at your life as a puzzle, what pieces are missing and what do you feel unfulfilled, and how do we fix that? Because intentional life doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen on accident.
That's so true. Yeah. I would love for you to, and I know this wasn't something we had talked about before, but if you could define the difference for you, at least therapy versus coaching, because I think people get confused on what is the difference. Why is one maybe better than the other in different situations or circumstances? So if you could dive into that, I think that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. So therapy is a lot more about mental health in that, I can give a diagnosis, right? You come to me and you say, I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z. I'm going to diagnose you with anxiety or depression, or tell you that you need to go see a psychiatrist to do that. We're going to deal a lot more with trauma, a lot of your past trauma, trying to figure out where the roots of these issues come from. And we're going to kind of be a little bit more back focused. That doesn't mean that we don't focus on how to move forward, but we are going to focus more on some of the things that have happened in the past and some of those past hurts. And it's a little bit more clinical in that there is a treatment plan, right? So we identify, here's the mental health diagnosis, here's the treatment plan that we have. That is good for extreme anxiety, for depression, for a lot of trauma. You know, all of us have some kind of trauma, whether it's small or big. And I believe firmly in mental health, going to get help in that area 100%. I think everyone should have a therapist at some point in their life, if not always, for even check-ins, just to make sure that their mental health is taken care of. Obviously, if you're experiencing any suicidal thoughts, or if you're experiencing like active harm to yourself, if you are hurting yourself, or if you have like an active eating disorder or something like that, then those would be things to go see a therapist for. Coaching is more about, I just feel something's missing. I feel like my life isn't exactly what I want. I feel stuck. I feel uncertain of what to do. I feel like I'm missing some of these tools that maybe I never learned that would help me get to where I want to be. So coaching is more solution focused. A lot of times it's not quite as long. So usually I'll work with coaching clients very regularly for about 6 months. And then after that, I'll check in with them about once a month. Hey, let's do a once a month check-in. But therapy, sometimes, you know, I have clients I've worked with for 4 years in therapy, and that's not abnormal at all, because there's a lot to uproot in those negative things with therapy. So yeah, coaching is a lot more about like how to kind of propel us forward to our passion and our purpose in life.
Thank you so much. That was, I think, going to be really helpful as people are trying to understand, do I need a coach or do I need therapy? So
absolutely. And a lot of times coaches will tell you, hey, this isn't something. I actually had a client reach out to me the other day, and she said, I really, you know, I want your services. But whenever I started talking to her, I said, you know what, I think therapy is a little bit more what you need, which I can do, but that's really not my focus right now. So I referred her to a therapist. So, and then I've had some of my therapist friends reach out and be like, hey, this person's done a lot of work in their healing. Would you be willing to do coaching? So, you know, a lot of times a professional can tell you that, but hopefully that gives some kind of idea of the two.
No, I think that's awesome. Okay, I would love to know more, since you're transitioning more into coaching right now. What is your vision for your business?
Absolutely. Yeah. So eventually I would love to have a business where I have multiple coaches underneath me. So I believe very much in the fact that everybody has a different gift, right? So like I can't do everything, and I'm not going to touch the lives of everyone that I meet. So there are some people who aren't going to resonate with me, or they're going to be like, nah, she's not my favorite. So I want to work with a lot of people who kind of have different niches. So eventually I want to have a wellness coach who's specific for physical health and fitness. I definitely can't do that. I want to have someone who's specific for relationships. I do a lot of relationship work, but I want someone who that's their whole focus is relationships. I want someone who their focus is, more mental health and those types of things, right? So like different kinds of specialties. And then I probably will have a couple therapists on staff as well, and have both a brick and mortar and an online business. And so that is one part of it. And then I eventually want to do something for human trafficking victims. So that is a huge passion of mine, to help people who have been through, I specialize in sexual trauma and sexually maladaptive behavior. So that's kind of a specialty of mine in therapy. I have a huge passion for helping people who have come out of that, that kind of trauma. And so I want to be able to eventually also either volunteer or create a program where my group, allows women to come for free to do some therapy and then coaching to help them find new jobs after they get out of that kind of trauma.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that sounds so beautiful. I love your vision and just your heart behind it. And I can just see like God's going to open doors for you and just allow you to create so much kingdom impact. So for anybody listening, we will drop her information in the show notes so that you can reach out to her. If you're like, I'm looking to collaborate or partner with Bekah, like definitely reach out to her, because we are here to help network and build up the kingdom here on earth. So,
thank you.
Just throwing that plug in for you, Bekah.
Yeah, thank you. I pray every day for divine partnerships, for divine connections, because I believe that God has created the body to edify him and to encourage one another, right? So like you have gifts that I don't have, and I have gifts that you don't have, and that's kind of the beauty of it. So I really appreciate that.
Exactly. Like we're the the body, like the hand and the foot, like we need each part and they all work differently. So
yes,
I love that. And I just feel like we had a divine connection too, just like meeting on Facebook, and we started chatting and I was like, I want to get to know you more. Like, and I want my listeners to get to know you more. So I definitely am all about like, how is God gonna, divinely orchestrate our paths and how they intertwine and connect, and how can we together create kingdom impact here on earth. So
yes.
love it. Okay, I would love for you to also share what, as a female entrepreneur, like what tips or advice that you can share with our listeners who are also on their journey of growing and building their own businesses.
Man, this one's hard because I think that a lot of people don't expect women to be business owners still in the 21st century, right? Like it should not be like a random thing. But when I tell people like I own 2 businesses, people will kind of look at me a little bit and be like, well, what kind of business do you own? And it seems kind of shocking to people. And so my first advice always is to seek God in everything you do, because I cannot do anything apart from him. My company is called Sheer Vision Coaching, and that's based on John 15. And it's talking about like letting God prune you and staying connected to the vine. So for me, abiding in him is number one. So I have to say that if you are looking at starting a business, make sure you make God your CEO. As cheesy as that sounds, have business meetings with God, have those times where you sit down and you speak to God and you say, and regularly, and say, God, I rely on you 100%, because I could not run a business for a day without my Heavenly Father. I just couldn't. So stay connected to him. And then the second thing is to believe in yourself, not because you can do things, but because you believe in who you're connected to. God can give you more favor in one day than you can create on your own in your whole lifetime. And so looking at like Joseph, being in prison, and he ended up rising to the top of the prison, and he was in charge of the prison, and then going from the prison to the palace in one day. Right. So God can put you in front of people that your favor never can, and he can keep you connected to those people. And so just seeking God always, and then believing that like, if I am connected to my Heavenly Father, there's nothing I can't do.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. I just want to clap for you, because that was such a great answer.
God is so good. God is so good. I mean, I absolutely love him so much. And he has called me to do this. And in times I've been like, Lord, this doesn't make sense. I'm trying to work with some churches to get on leadership staff, like to help them through their things. And churches aren't really known for spending a lot of money. Right. And pastors aren't known for having a lot of money and those types of things. And so I'm like, God, why would you have me go after this demographic that doesn't have a lot of money, knowing that I need to make a living, right? I mean, I'm a single mom, I need to make a living. And he has really challenged me to say, my business is not the source of anything for me. My job is not the source of anything for me. It doesn't matter what it is. Nothing is my source but him. And so just remembering that if I'm connected to that source, if there is a raven that's going to come bring me food, they will bring me food, right? Like God is going to orchestrate it and is not going to leave me out alone.
Amen. That is so true. And that's something that I've been on a journey of just knowing more, who is God and who is his character? And then who am I as his divine daughter? And what does that mean for me and my identity? And like you said, going to him as a source for my protection, my provision, my comfort, my love, my just being light as for who I am, my identity being known by him, instead of seeking the world, seeking the bank account, the car, the promotion, the bonus, like all the things that I had done previously when I was building a business with the world expectation versus the kingdom expectation. And I can tell you, it's completely shifted everything for me. And like, that's what I say in my intro, like operate from a place of rest, because when you are aligned with God and he is your source, that's when you receive ultimate freedom and ultimate rest, and you don't have to worry about tomorrow, because he will provide for me in the most random of ways if I just like release and let him do it. And then I'm like, it's easier said than done. Like the spirit's willing but the flesh is weak, right? So that's a constant, like daily, you have, like you said, frequent meetings with God. Like that is so important, to continuously be renewing our minds daily in the word, taking captive of our thoughts daily, make them pleasing to the Lord. And that's just like, speaking on like advice to women listening, like that is going to be a game changer for you and your business, So I'm so grateful to you, Bekah, for just speaking that out, because especially in today's world, like, people aren't talking about, like, no, your first tip is the first thing you need to do is go to God, not to the self-help book, not to the coach, not to social media. Like, go to God first, and he may bring you a coach, he may bring you a book to read, but he is the ultimate source for everything. So,
and I love that you mentioned that kingdom perspective, because it's so like, I'm all into vision boards. I'm into, believing in affirmations, but I used to have the vision board of like, I want a Range Rover and a beautiful house and a handsome husband and all of these things. And now when I look at that board, it's more about, how can I use a car to glorify God? How do I pay off my car that I have so that I can glorify God with the money that I spend every month on that? Right? If I were to get married, it needs to be to propel God's kingdom forward, not for my own, well-being. Right? How do I, take my time with my daughter, the 7 years that's left before she graduates high school, and be intentional with that? So it's like that change of perspective from, this is what I can do, to, this is a tool, this money, this house, this car, this person is a tool to glorify God and to heal the hurting.
Yes, I love that. Like, tool, keyword, guys listening. That tool is the key word here. It's not about your identity. It's not about power or whatever. It's a tool. Money is a tool. Your car is a tool. Your business is a tool. So looking at it from that frame of perspective of, how can I use this tool, this resource that God has given me to glorify the kingdom? It takes the worry, the stress, the striving, the hustle mentality that the world wants you to box you into, which is killing, destroying so many women and their families, because and I'm speaking from my own past life of, I found myself at a place of burnout, and I had achieved great goals and success, but I looked around behind me and I'm like, was the journey to get here worth it? Did I even bring glory to the kingdom? I think God can take everything and use it for his good, right? But I felt so dead inside, and then once I started shifting the kingdom perspective and working for the kingdom impact, it's just a whole different ball game, and it's way better, ladies. So
because someday we're going to stand before God and he's going to say, I gave you this time, this talents, these abilities. What did you do with it? Right. And so it's like, if I give one talent back to him, he's going to bless it and give it, give more. So it's like, I want to make sure I stand before the Lord someday and he says, you did well with what I gave you.
Yeah, I know, well done, good and faithful servant.
Absolutely. That's what I want to hear, It's like, and I want people to be with me because of my obedience. Not that there's anything that I did, but because I was obedient, there are people that are going to be there in heaven. I don't want them to be like, you're here, but you're here alone. Like, what? That's not what I want, and we weren't created to live in a place of unfulfillment and sadness and scarcity and lack, right? We were supposed to live in a place of abundance. And that doesn't always mean being rich or anything, but it means knowing who God is and he's our source and walking in that. And so many things we don't get to experience because we don't walk in what God has already freed us from.
Ooh, preach, girl. Yes. Yes.
I get passionate. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, we are speaking the same language for sure, because that is something I have totally changed my message this year, especially, is operating from a place of rest. And you only do that by going into the spirit. And that's when you gain the abundance. That's when you gain the rest, all of the fruits of the spirit. If you're in your flesh, then you're not getting any of the fruits or the inheritance or the promises that God has clearly laid out and already given to you. So it's like, he's literally standing there, trying to shove it in your face. And you're just like, no, I'm not good enough. No, I can't. I'm not worthy, or I need to do this on my own, or I need to do some more deeds before I can receive your love. And no, he sent Jesus to die on the cross for us, to take our shame and condemnation, to take our guilt. And he's asking us to do is look him in the face and say, yes, I choose you. And I choose that I am who you are in you, and take what I have for you. But we make it so complicated, and the church culture, I think, complicates it sometimes too, and misses the boat. It's just you literally just come. And that's just been such a beautiful revelation that thank God has revealed to me, so that I could, I feel like it has taken me 33 years to fully understand and receive, like, what does it mean to actually receive and stand in my divine identity? And
Yes.
it's
Because
what I
the
pray
enemy's
for.
always there telling
Yeah.
us something different. And that we don't talk a lot about spiritual warfare or about, here, like about the devil in general, right? But there is
Right.
a real enemy and he is there trying to devour you. And so on a daily basis, I will hear this voice of the enemy. You're not good enough for this. You need to go back to work for someone else. No one's going to want to work with you. Like, you have too many scars. You're divorced. Nobody can, no one's going to want to work with you in the church because you're divorced, right? Or no one's going to want to work with you because you were in unhealthy relationships and did things that were beneath you, right? Like, I have all of these things that I could cling on to shame, and I have,
Right.
But instead now I'm living in that place to say, you know what, like, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ. And I am not going to accept that. I'm going to accept what God says about me. And that's another great thing about coaching, is really like hearing the things that God says about you, right? So like, I do affirmations where I create personalized affirmations for people based on what their own issues are from the Bible. And so it's like, death and life are in the power of the tongue. So you have to be speaking every single day. That's another tip I give to women. And if you're starting a business too, I have stacks and stacks of index cards that I say daily. I have inside of every one of my cabinets, I have scriptures taped. One of the scriptures is God's gifts and calls are irrevocable. I have to remind myself that no matter what I do or what I am in that moment, like, he has a calling on my life, and speak that, because the enemy, cannot live up to that. If it's constantly spoken, our spirit is going to be encouraged.
Amen. I love that. That is so true. Everything you said. That's one thing Natalie and I, we call it activating the scriptures. So instead of saying like, I am Alexis Carbonus or whatever, it's saying, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am clothed in strength and dignity, like speaking that truth and that life over yourself daily. And just like you, like, I'll literally be just driving along, minding my own business. The next thing I know, remember when you did that sin or whatever? And I'm like, I've already been forgiven for that. Like,
right. Why
like,
is this
that's
being
such
reminded?
a lie. Yeah. And the enemy is not, what's the word? He's not creative, right? He does the exact same thing over and over and over. So understanding.
But we fall for it so many
I know.
times. That's what's crazy. We're like, why do we still fall for this? But
it is.
But
so
we
true.
sometimes are so comfortable in shame that we like go back into this pool of shame instead of being free.
Oh my gosh, that's a big statement right there, and I'm so grateful for you for saying that, because that is true. Like, how many times do we just get comfortable being uncomfortable? And we're afraid if we step out of that box, it's bad, but what if it's worse, like outside of the box, right? That's
Absolutely,
what people think about.
yeah.
But what if it's better and there's true freedom and rest and joy and peace? And I mean, it's better outside of the box, ladies. So
and sometimes it's a faith issue. Like, I've had times where I've been like, what if I step out and God doesn't come through?
Yeah.
And then it's like, and I don't say that out loud, right? But I think I'm like, what if I step forth and say, God's called me to X, Y, and Z, and then I fail? You know what I'm saying? Then it's like a faith issue of, I don't have the faith that God's going to provide what he says he's going to provide. Or if I misheard something, I don't have the faith to say, you know what, God is still going to take care of me in the times of that I misheard, because I'm human and I misheard him. Do you know what I'm saying? Or whatever that may be. But to know that I'm going to step out in this, and I'm not going to I try to live my life as if I'm allergic to mediocrity, because I have already wasted a lot of years of my life in hurt and pain and shame. And I don't ever, even if I live to 100, I don't have enough years to give back to God what he's given to me in these years.
That's awesome. I love that. That's cool. I've never heard that. I'm allergic to mediocrity. I just like, I might have to steal that one.
I am not going to live a mediocre life. I won't do it, because it's just like, we weren't created for that. We weren't designed for that. We're designed for excellence, for goodness. And it says, do all things unto the glory of God. So like, I try to, if I'm washing the dishes, I try to say, all right, God, this is, our time. Let me spend time with you. Let me do this unto you. And that's definitely not easy. I'm not one of those people who's like, I love doing the dishes, but it's really trying to like focus on the kingdom to say, what can I be doing right now? Can I be praying for someone? Can I be speaking life over myself? Can I be praying for my daughter? I also set things up throughout the day for my success. So like, I'm very practical about tools. Like, I tend to get distracted. So I'll set an alarm for my, to remind myself to pray for my daughter every day, or I'll set an alarm to remind myself to pray for my business. I have certain days that I pray for certain things, and I have it written out on a calendar in front of me. Visual cues are very important.
Oh yeah.
So remind yourself to do those things and set yourself up for success to make sure that that's done.
That's great advice too. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
One last question I have before we end the podcast. How do you see God working through you and through your business right now? Have you seen any like divinely orchestrated, just like, oh, this is truly God happening?
Oh my gosh, so many divinely orchestrated things. I have had, as far as like God's favor in my life, I have had so many people reach out to me. I had a non-Christian person reach out and say, hey, I want to provide this service for you, for your business for free. I don't know why, but I just am feeling drawn to you. And I'm like, that's the favor of God, bro. You just don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I've had so many people. I had somebody else reach out to me and give me a course that was really helpful for me for free. You know, I'm a part of this group that, you know, it helps me so much that God has orchestrated to bring into my life. That is a group coaching that has brought a lot of healing, that I would have never met him, except I just randomly saw the guy on Instagram and like we connected, you know, like, and then podcasts, like people have reached out to me and been like, hey, can we do these things, these connections, these people? And like, it's just been one thing after another of God showing me I'm in this. And then also I have never been the kind of person who's put my stuff out on my personal Facebook page. I've always been, I have business and I have personal, and that's it. And I've also never added a single person I don't know in my life. I always only have my friends. I had a very small group, like 250 friends, and that was it. And so I've been challenged to grow that. And I probably have 10 women a day reach out to me, like, what you said, you know, really helped me. Or now I think that I want to start asking God questions, or I want to start asking about who he is. Just things that like are prompting people to do that. And so I feel like God is using me to kind of break open some things in the church that people have never really thought of.
Yeah. That's so awesome. I just love interviewing women and just seeing God work, and hopefully this is encouraging to the listeners too, that like if you come to God, you build your business for God, like he's going to work all things for your good. He has plans to give you hope and a future and not to harm you. So I just pray that blessing over you, Bekah, and over those listeners today. Before we leave, where can people find you and how can you serve them with your mission?
Yes. So you can find me on Facebook. It's Bekah George, and Bekah is spelled weird. So it's Bekah George. I am friends with you on Facebook, so I'm sure they can find you through that as well. So Bekah George, and then I'm on Instagram as Sheer Vision Coaching. So it's SHEAR Vision Coaching. I'm on there. I did just get a new website done that should be launching this week, but I don't have that out yet. So I'm going to be, having that, but you can find me through those two ways. And also I have a Facebook group. So if you add me on Facebook, I have a group that I just started this weekend that is for Christian leaders that I'm going to be doing extra content for. And I would love to have anybody who's interested in being in that group, send me a DM, add me on Facebook and ask me for that. And then as far as how I can serve you, I love working with people who want to find more of a passion for Christ, who want to find more of a direction and deepness in that. Also women who have a lot of limiting beliefs about themselves, so we can kind of eradicate and deal with in a godly way. And then the other part of my business is working with people at churches. So I love to work, if you are someone who goes to church and you say, hey, this could be really good for my church. I love to do seminars and luncheons and, times where I speak to pastors and leaders and also the volunteers to say, hey, this is how you take care of yourself. This is how you deal with anxiety in the church. This is how you deal with depression in the church. This is how you deal with grief in the church. And I can do that via telehealth. So I don't have to, I'm in Orlando area. So in Orlando, I can come to in person, but outside of Orlando, I can either be, I have had a couple places fly me in, which is awesome, but I know that's expensive. But I can do telehealth where I can do it over the internet. Or I also love speaking engagements. So being able to speak about, who we are in Christ, preaching, those types of things. Like I would love to be a part of any of that. So, and also just connecting with people. I love to meet people. So if you don't want to work with me, but you just want to say hi, please say hi. I love meeting you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Bekah, for joining Rise to Your Purpose.
Thanks
and
for having me.
For listening. And have a great day, everybody.
Rise to Your Purpose will be a weekly podcast. Our hope is to inspire and educate you on your entrepreneurial journey to help you fuel your passions, live your purpose, and build a business that works for you.
You can subscribe, rate, and comment on any podcast app. We'd love to hear from you. It makes us so happy to see you tuning in to the show. So if you're on Instagram, let us know what your favorite part of the show was by taking a screenshot of the episode you tuned into and tag us at Live Victorious on your story. Let us know what your favorite quote or takeaway from the episode was so that we can be inspired to keep creating content like this for you.
To learn more about us and get involved with our community of mission-driven entrepreneurs, join our Facebook group, Purpose Partners, where we partner together in faith and business. So until next time, build a business that works for you and stay in alignment with your mission.